Hello there, Joshua Mackey here, application and solutions provider. Today's episode is going to be about web development, how you can become a web dev for hire, and why you should become a provider of solutions. You know how it is. When you go to a family reunion, a barbecue, a cookout, some event, you tell people what you do for a living and they say, can you work on my computer? And you say, well, I'm a web developer. I don't really work on hardware, but you get the point. But you also can run into the same thing in the web development industry. So when I think about becoming a solutions provider, you've got front-end developers, back-end developers, designers, you got UX developers, UX designers. These are all tools, these are all skills that you may or may not want to have. But these are all solutions. Recently I just picked up my AWS Solutions Solutions Architect certificate. I also picked up my Certified Developer Associate certificate. These are all things that are needed in the web development industry and software industry. So when I say becoming a provider of solutions, what I mean is that you should become versatile in everything that your industry has to offer. As we know, this world is changing, and you should definitely load yourself with all sorts of new skills. Now, what do? I specialize in helping small businesses and entrepreneurs get their business to the next level with software solutions. Whether you have a WordPress site in place already, you may have an ERP or some type of accounting software, and you may be reaching out to these companies saying, hey, I would love to get this feature added. I would love to get that feature added. Oh, this doesn't load my data from this other network. Sometimes you want to bring these things together, and it can get pretty wacky if not well planned. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is daily routine. This is super important in your workflow because once you set a daily routine, it's going to allow you to execute more efficiently. I like to start my day with checking emails, doing customer service, and then planning out my task of things to do. You can use tools like Trello, Jira. You may work in an agile shop, you may be waterfall. You may not even know what any of these things mean. But the number one thing is to set a daily routine when you're going to talk to customers, when you're going to actually have heads down development time, and when you're going to have time for your family. So daily routine is super important. That's rule number one. What we want to talk about now are tools of the trade. Ooh man, this is a lengthy conversation, but we're going to keep it down to a minimum. So tools of the trade. So the first thing you want to have is a computer. It doesn't matter if it's Windows, Mac OS, Linux. Myself personally, I'm very, very fond of Unix-based machines. So Mac and Linux are my favorite. Stay away from tablets unless you're doing some specialty project for maybe like some coding camp where they have you on a tablet. You may be doing some type of iOS coding project, but that's all proprietary. Stay away from tablets and get yourself a laptop or a desktop. Next, you want to have a text editor or an IDE. There are lots to choose from out here. You've got Visual Studio Code, which is called VS Code. You got Notepad++, Sublime Text. You can also get into IDEs like WebStorm, PHP Storm. JetBrains makes a whole slew of tools. I was formerly a JetBrains user, but I found my workflow could be a little more efficient using some of the open source tools in VS Code. It was really hard to let go, but WebStorm just really couldn't compete with the community that VS Code had to offer, in my opinion. So next we'll talk about notepads. You're going to want to jot things down. One of the main things that you want to do when meeting with clients or taking on tasks or grooming every day is to take notes. Don't just wait on your project manager to tell you what to do. Take notes, take requirements, ask questions, start sketching. You want to have sketches that you can provide to the client where you can say, hey, I'm going to take these ideas and I'm going to groom them into something usable. Some people call that a brainstorming session. A Git provider. Today, Git rules the world. Back when I first started 20 years ago, we had tools like Mercurial and team sites where you would check code in to these very clunky systems. But Git was created by Linus Torvald, the guy who created Linux. But don't get me down starting on that conversation because some people say, oh, he didn't create Linux, he just contributed to it. But you want some type of Git provider. So I would recommend GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. Those would be the top dogs there. Oh, AWS also has Code Commit, so you can check them out as well. Learn to ask questions on Google, Stack Overflow, OpenAI, ChatGPT. This is super important. You may think, oh, well, ChatGPT is going to just take over and, they won't need developers anymore. No, that's not correct. ChatGPT and OpenAI are really great tools, but, I was one of the first guys to say, oh man, AI is going to, take and replace all of us developers. But that's actually not true. We've actually got a little bit of time. I don't know how many years, but what it does for me is provide really good documentation. So like if I'm using a library that I don't know how to use, I can ask ChatGPT just like I would ask Google. Hey, how do I implement this, implementing a single sign-on component, and I didn't know how to use LinkedIn single sign-on. So I had to look at the documentation. Of course, you could go out and look for it on your own, but why not use a tool that's going to give you an answer in 2 seconds, right? And I got the answer from ChatGPT that way. Now, although some people think, you can just go and learn how to code on ChatGPT, I personally don't believe that. You're still going to know how to put things in place, and you're going to have to wield that sword into something usable. Okay, this is an interesting one. This is almost as important as your workflow. Projects and clients. Let's say you got laid off from your job and you no longer have constant work coming in. You're going to want projects and clients. It doesn't matter if it's your uncle's dog grooming business, your auntie's baking business, the lawyer down the street who does bail bonds. I don't even know if lawyers do bail bonds, but anyway, you're going to want projects and clients. So the first thing I would say is, hey, reach out to all of your friends and families that have businesses. They may have existing websites. What you want is portfolio. You want portfolio material. You want to take over their sites. You want to maintain them for them. You want to establish yourself as a freelance contractor. Of course, with that said, you can literally reach out to any recruiting company, Tech Systems, Robert Half, Signature Consultants. They're all going to have lots of work lined up for you. But if you're not looking for that sort of environment, then drumming up business is going to be just as important. A lot of people are going to already have websites in place, whether they use WordPress, Drupal, Shopify. That's totally fine. What I'm getting at here is the fact that they don't come perfect. When you install a WordPress site, when you install a Shopify site, Drupal, these are cookie cutter creative types. They're going to want things that do specific things that they want. Whether it's like some specific form that submits data to a database and not necessarily just to some log in the back of their administration panel, right? These are ideas and tools that you could build for them. So becoming a provider of solutions, you could literally just get into the WordPress plugin market and offer customized plugins for customers. That's huge. Maintenance packages are super important. My brother-in-law, he makes a killing off of WordPress maintenance packages and building WordPress sites. I don't want to spend too much time on WordPress here, but the point I'm getting at is when you're a web developer, you have to go after whatever's popular. And unfortunately, I'm not even going to say unfortunately. Fortunately for you, WordPress, I think, what do they say, 75% of the sites in the world run on WordPress. I won't talk bad about WordPress, but hey, it's just the honest truth. So if you're a web developer, you're going to run across these, and people need work. They need people to maintain them and keep these sites healthy with migrations and everything else. Customized applications. Be very careful with this, because what you'll find out is everyone has an idea. Oh, I want you to build Facebook for me. I want to build, my version of Facebook's going to charge $1. And when I get 1 million users, I'm going to get $1 million. You'll come across all kinds of wacky ideas like that. Stay away from crazy customized applications, unless they're paying you, of course. You still want to be careful with that as well. A lot of times these guys will offer you equity to build their application. Just be very careful. A lot of horror stories here. Building software as a service, startups, that sort of thing. Now I want to talk about time management and productivity. So I use Google Calendar and Trello, and sometimes Jira, depending on the clients that I'm working with. There is a premium with Jira. Jira actually bought Trello a few years ago. If you need something a little more robust, I would say Monday.com or Jira, or some of the others that are out there. Be focused. It is an interval tool that literally lives on your computer. It basically uses the Commodore technique. So when you set a task or set like something on your list, it'll allow you to work for 25 minutes with 5-minute interval breaks. So that gives your mind a time to clear itself. The Commodore technique has been around for a long time, but this bee-focused desktop application allows you to stay focused, heads down, and then take a break. And then after a while, so after so many cycles, it'll give you like a 15-minute rest break. Collaboration and communication. So this is very important. The last thing you want is to book a job and you're not staying consistently, you're not communicating consistently with your client. Make sure you have like some type of tool like Zoom or Google Meet to check in and give progress reports. You definitely want to set milestones and deadlines where you're actually checking in work to show them what's going on. As far as communication, I like Slack, I like Microsoft Teams. I don't like text, even though on the Mac side they have messages. You don't want to be on the hook for answering messages or text while you're trying to work. I would also recommend getting a virtual assistant if you don't have an assistant or a team. It may just be yourself. But these are great ways of communicating. I'm going to say stay away from email because emails can get lost. Also, you want to think about maybe even having a service queue. Maybe you have an application that's out there or you have a website that's running already and you don't want your client to pick up the phone and say, hey, my web form isn't submitting. You want them to submit a ticket, and that way you'll have this ticket queue. You can even have a separate monitor that's showing all of your queues that are coming in from all these different places. Now ideally you want to be like those old school commercials like the Culligan Man. The Culligan Man he wasn't the Culligan Man, it was the Maytag Man. The Maytag Man would just sit around like, man, I wish I had something to do. They were bragging on how good their washing machines work. So you want to build software and tools that run efficiently, but unfortunately that's not how it works. You're going to have bugs, you're going to have ticket requests, you're going to have those clients that just can never seem to love what you do right out of the box. And that's what communication and collaboration tools like Slack, Microsoft Teams are for. Knowledge transfer. This is so important. As a solutions provider, after you've built your really cool tool, you're going to want to transfer that knowledge into their head. Sort of like in the Matrix. Remember when Morpheus, he sat Neo down and he said, okay, you're going to learn how to fly a helicopter, you're going to learn Kung Fu, and they plugged that cord into the back of their head. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is you want to transfer knowledge into your client's head. You understand how it goes as a developer, but I struggle with this myself. I'm not always the best at explaining these things to a fifth grader. So let's just say that I've built a CRM platform, or maybe even I've built an event application for the client. They're going to want to know how everything works, whether they're collecting payments, whether they're scanning tickets at the door. You want to explain this entire process, and you want to show them where documentation can be found for this. Confluence is a great tool for that. So it's super important that you spend at least an hour, preferably more, just showing your client how it works, because you've got other jobs to go off to. You don't want to constantly have to train a client on how the tools work. So knowledge transfer is super important after the job is done. And that's it. These are just some things that you can focus on as a web developer and solutions provider. It's 2023, the world is changing. Don't be afraid to use tools like OpenAI and ChatGPT to help your workflow. There's so many things that you can do to automate. It's been really fun with you guys. If you can, please subscribe and comment. And if you want to know more about me, you can go to joshuamackey.com. That's www.joshuamackey.com. I'm Joshua Mackey, the solutions architect and AWS developer. And yeah, I'll see you next time.